Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating and honestly urgent piece of writing that takes a hard look at how the media covers artificial intelligence, but more specifically, how that coverage intersects with our environment. The source material presents this sharp, urgent critique of modern tech reporting, arguing that there is a massive blind spot right now when it comes to sustainable infrastructure. So if you've been reading all those terrifying headlines about AI's energy consumption and wondering what the real story is, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to map out exactly what's allegedly being ignored in the news and how it impacts all of us as we barrel toward the year 2030. Okay, let's dive into this. The source material we're looking at doesn't just read like your standard tech article. The author literally frames it as a public service announcement. They view our current situation as this critical race against time between our rapidly depleting environmental resources and the explosive, unstoppable growth of AI. And their absolute biggest grievance? The media is just way too quiet about the realities of this race. They're arguing that the reporting we do get is fundamentally unfair because it just completely misses the broader context of sustainability. To make sense of this whole argument, here is our roadmap for today. First, the media's AI narrative. Second, the race to 2030. Third, sustainable tech infrastructure. And finally, a new media mandate. All right, Section 1, the media's AI narrative, sensationalism versus reality. Let's explore this by looking at a really clear comparison of what the author flat out calls half-truths. You know the drill. The primary focus of today's media features these screaming headlines that AI is just consuming way too much electricity and single-handedly creating this global e-waste crisis. But, well, that ignores a major reality. The tech industry is actually actively addressing those very points. Furthermore, pinning e-waste solely on AI is just wildly inaccurate. E-waste is a massive global issue that encompasses absolutely everything containing digital components. We're talking about the whole shebang, not just the latest AI servers. The source boils this entire media strategy down to one distinct phrase: sell fear through sensationalism. According to the text, this is a textbook modern-day media tactic. By focusing only on the scary half of the truth, the power consumption and the waste, without actually reporting on the massive industry-wide efforts to mitigate those problems, the media is intentionally generating panic rather than fostering a truly informed public. Moving on to Section 2, the race to 2030, the uncovered danger zone. We're kind of shifting gears here from a critique of media tactics to the actual environmental ticking clock that needs to be on our radar. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the visual model the author provides to map out this race. They argue this trajectory should be on literally every news program. If you look at the span from 2020 through 2040, notice that crucial point right smack in the middle, 2030. This period right now, leading up to 2030, is identified as our critical danger zone, where our massive thirst for all things digital is clashing hard against our global resources. Let's break down the mechanics of what those lines actually mean for us. Pre-2030, both the red and green lines are in negative territory, which basically means our current technological practices are actively hitting the environment negatively. But 2030 is the vital intersection point. From there, the red line, representing legacy systems and the circular economy limit, stabilizes at net zero. Meanwhile, the green line, which stands for tandem tech implementations, crosses the threshold and actually soars into net positive territory post-2030. The big takeaway? We are on a pathway to a solution, but these next few years are the make or break bottleneck. You probably noticed the term circular economy mentioned in that last chart's red line, and it's absolutely crucial we define it to fully grasp the argument here. A circular economy is a systemic approach aimed entirely at eliminating waste and ensuring the continual use of resources. It's like a giant puzzle where every piece gets reused. The text is very clear that for us to hit that stabilization point by 2030, this circular economy approach cannot just be applied to AI alone. It has to cover our entire digital footprint, literally every single device, server, and component we use. Which brings us to Section 3. Sustainable tech infrastructure. A global problem needs a global solution. So, if the goal is a global circular economy by 2030, who is actually driving this change, and what's standing in the way? Well, according to this source, the true culprit isn't necessarily the technology itself. Actually, scratch that. It's more like it's a behavioral problem. It's our collective throwaway mentality. The author makes a super compelling case that AI is simply the latest technology getting the blame for a much older, deeply ingrained habit. We've been treating electronics as disposable for decades now, and that legacy behavior is exactly what got us into this precarious environmental situation in the first place. So the crucial point is that a sustainable infrastructure isn't just some pipe dream. It's actively being built right now.
The global race towards a circular economy is absolutely on. And interestingly, the tech industry is actually leading the charge. Why? Well, because their profits are at risk. They're putting real money behind this push. However, tech companies can't do it alone. Because this is a global problem, the solution demands coordinated efforts across three distinct tiers: individuals, corporations, and entire nations.
And that leads right into Section 4, a new media mandate, turning the tide on public opinion. The author believes the media holds incredible power to persuade and change public opinion, which is exactly what's needed to win this race. So instead of selling fear, they lay out a highly specific three-pronged mandate for investigative reporting moving forward. Step 1 focuses on nations. The media needs to report on exactly what individual countries are doing to win the race to 2030, both the good and the bad. Step 2 targets corporations. News outlets must highlight the corporate leaders spearheading sustainability and, frankly, ruthlessly call out those lagging behind. And Step 3 is aimed at people. The media has a massive duty to educate consumers on smart, sustainable purchasing habits, rather than just hyping up the next big gadget release.
Let's talk about that consumer piece for a second, because this is where the message is directed right at you and me. The explicit advice given in the text is crystal clear. Stop buying new gadgets unless the manufacturer has a clear operational end-of-life plan. Think about what this means for your next tech purchase. We're being urged to demand accountability through our wallets, essentially forcing companies into the circular economy if they want our business. And as we review this really impassioned plea, it's vital to note the stance on politics here, perfectly captured in this quote. Regardless of political position, we all share this environment, and it will take us all to win the race to 2030. The source explicitly calls for the media and the public to put political biases totally aside. And hey, this explainer remains completely neutral because the source material demands it. The health of the planet and the build-out of sustainable infrastructure isn't some partisan issue. It's a shared, undeniable reality for all of us. We end this explainer with the ultimate challenge, drawn directly from the text. The author believes that working together, we absolutely can win this race to 2030, but it hinges heavily on how information is shared. So the final question left for us to ponder today is this. Will the media step up to its potential to educate and inform, or will it simply continue to sell fear and sensationalism? Keep that in mind the next time you scroll past a terrifying headline about AI and the environment. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive, and keep asking those hard questions.